The host told me not to open the locked basement door under any circumstances. I thought it was just an old, unused room until I heard something knocking from the other side at 3 a.m. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment so you won't miss more terrifying true stories like this one. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end. The ending will shock you. I travel a lot for work, so staying in Airbnb rentals is just part of my routine. But this small, rustic cottage in rural Pennsylvania still keeps me up at night. It was late October. I was driving from New York to visit a client and didn't want to blow money on a hotel. I found a listing that looked cozy: wooden walls, fireplace, secluded but clean. The host, a man named Greg, had stellar reviews and fast replies. He even messaged me before my arrival, saying, "Just so you know, the basement door stays locked. Please don't open it. It's used for storage." It felt a little odd, but not enough to cancel. The photos showed nothing weird, and the price was too good to pass up. When I got there, it was dusk. The property sat at the end of a narrow gravel road, surrounded by bare trees that looked almost skeletal in the dying light. Greg wasn't there to meet me. He'd left the key in a lockbox. The silence outside was heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. Inside, the cabin was small but charming. Wood-burning stove, cozy couch, old framed photos of rural life, nothing too strange. But the smell, that faint, musty odor that lingered under everything, like damp earth. I texted Greg to say I'd arrived safely. He replied almost instantly, "Glad you made it. Please remember to keep the basement locked. Enjoy your stay." That message made me pause for a second longer than I wanted to admit. Why repeat it twice? I shrugged it off, unpacked, and cooked a quick meal. But as I sat eating, I realized the smell was stronger near the hallway where the basement door was. It looked old, heavy, with a rusted handle and a padlock at the top. I tugged on it lightly. It didn't budge. Later that night, I tried to relax with a movie, but the Wi-Fi kept cutting out. At around 11:30, he went to bed, the sound of wind brushing the cabin walls lulling me to sleep. Then, sometime after 2 a.m., I woke up. At first, I thought it was just a dream. The sound was fainter. Tap, 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 like dripping water. But then it came again. Louder, more deliberate. Knock, 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 knock. 3 slow knocks from somewhere below me. I froze in bed. My brain tried to rationalize it. It's just the pipes, or maybe an animal under the floorboards. But then came a muffled voice. It was impossible to make out the words, but it was definitely a voice. Amez. My chest tightened. I reached for my phone. 3:12 a.m. and texted Greg. "Hey, is someone else staying here? I'm hearing noises from the basement." No response. I waited. My heart was hammering so loud it drowned out the wind. Then I heard it again, this time clearer. Dot, dot, dot. Help, dot, dot, dot. It was a whisper, drawn out hoarse. I stared at the locked door from my spot on the couch. I didn't move for what felt like hours. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe it was the wind, or some weird echo. But the voice came again, closer. "Please, dot, help me, dot, 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 dot." Double quotes this time. It was right under the floorboards. I jumped up, grabbed my phone, flashlight, and crept toward the door. The musty smell hit me like a wall now, earth. Something sour, metallic. I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. Then, suddenly, bang, something slammed into the other side of the door. I stumbled back, heart in my throat. My flashlight flickered. That's when I noticed the lock. It wasn't locked anymore. The padlock hung loose, swinging slightly. That's impossible. I hadn't touched it. I didn't care about my stuff. I ran to the bedroom, grabbed my keys, and bolted for the car. The cold night air slapped me awake. I drove until I hit the nearest gas station 20 miles away. Greg finally replied at 4:26 a.m. "I told you to keep the door locked. Don't go back. I'm calling someone to deal with it. Deal with what? I never got another message from him. The listing disappeared the next morning. Completely gone. No reviews, no trace of Greg. But a few days later, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd heard. I looked up the property address. It wasn't hard to find through my old reservation email. An old news article came up. It said the property belonged to a man named Gregory Harlow, who'd been arrested 5 years earlier for keeping someone locked in his basement. The victim had disappeared. The article said the cabin had been condemned. So, who was messaging me from that account? And who are? What was still knocking down there? I found hidden cameras in the Airbnb I stayed at, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing the host had been watching me live. I travel solo a lot, usually for photography trips. I like peace and quiet, old architecture, abandoned towns, places that make good stories. Last spring, I booked an Airbnb in Savannah, Georgia, a renovated Victorian house that looked perfect for my next photo project. It had charm, history, and that eerie beauty I love capturing on camera. The host's name was Lisa. Her messages were polite but oddly formal. She wrote things like, "Do not rearrange any furniture and do not cover any of the smoke detectors." The listing had over 50 glowing reviews, though, so I figured she was just meticulous. When I arrived, the neighborhood felt too quiet. The air was thick and heavy, the street lamps buzzing faintly in the humid night. The house itself was massive. Tall windows, white pillars, peeling paint on the porch. It looked old enough to remember ghosts. Lisa greeted me in person. She was maybe in her 40s, pale, and spoke with an unsettling calm. She gave me a tour that was rehearsed, like she'd done it 100 times. "This was built in 1892, she said. "You'll have the whole top floor to yourself. The parlor and dining area are off limits." Her eyes lingered too long when she said that. I noticed one strange thing right away. There were a lot of mirrors. Every room had at least 2, all positioned at odd angles. Some faced the bed. Some pointed directly at the shower door. When I asked if they were antique, Lisa smiled. "Oh yes, they've seen a lot of guests." That line made me shiver. After unpacking, I took out my camera to transfer some photos. My laptop picked up a strange Wi-Fi name, Lisa Cam. At first, I laughed. Maybe she used cameras for security or pet monitoring. But then I remembered something. There were no pets. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those mirrors, the way they reflected parts of the room I couldn't fully see. At around 1 a.m., I got up and started inspecting them. The one across from the bed seemed slightly tilted. I leaned closer, my flashlight tracing the frame. The wood looked newer than the rest of the house. I tapped the glass. It sounded hollow. My stomach turned. I pressed again, this time harder, and the mirror wobbled slightly, revealing a thin gap behind it. I used my phone's flashlight and peeked through. There was a lens, a camera lens, and behind it a small red light blinking in the darkness. My hands went cold. I stepped back, heart pounding. I grabbed my bag and started scanning the rest of the room. I found 3 more cameras. One inside the smoke detector, another hidden behind a vent, and one inside the bedside lamp. Someone had been watching everything. I ran out of the room and down the stairs, but when I reached the front door, it wouldn't open. The lock was one of those digital types that required a code. Lisa hadn't given me one. I called her immediately. She didn't answer. Then, from the living room, her voice came through the intercom speaker. Calm, flat, and cold. "You're not supposed to be downstairs." Every hair on my body stood up. "Lisa, what the hell is this?" I shouted. She didn't respond. Instead, I heard something creak from above me. The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps. But I had just come from the upstairs room. No one else was there. I ran to the back door, locked too. Every window was nailed shut. The curtains fluttered slightly as if from air vents, but I couldn't find where the airflow came from. That's when I realized the mirrors weren't just decorative. They were one-way glass, and someone was on the other side. I could see faint shadows moving behind them. Slow, steady, as if someone was walking along the wall, tracing my every step. Then, Lisa's voice again. "You shouldn't have touched anything." The sound came from everywhere. From the vents, the ceiling, the walls. I backed away toward the kitchen, gripping my phone like a weapon. I tried dialing 911, but the signal was dead. The Wi-Fi was gone, too. I remembered my car keys and bolted toward the side window in the kitchen. The nails were rusty and bent. I ripped the wood away with my bare hands, ignoring the splinters. The glass shattered as I kicked through it and stumbled into the yard. I didn't look back. I just ran. I ran barefoot down that dark street until I found a gas station with a payphone. I called the police. When they arrived, they searched the house, but no one was there. Not Lisa. Not anyone. They found hidden cameras in nearly every room, all connected to a central recording system in the basement. A room guests weren't allowed to enter. The footage showed hundreds of people, different guests, different years. But the last file was dated that very night. It showed me sleeping, and then a door opening behind me. The next morning, the police tried to contact the host through the Airbnb account, but it had been deleted hours earlier. The property listing vanished the same way the one from my last story did. No address, no reviews, no trace. But sometimes, when I connect to Wi-Fi in public places, I still see it appear briefly in the list. Lisa Cam. And then it disappears again. The Airbnb looked perfect, online, peaceful, remote, and beautifully minimalist. But when I arrived, there were family photos on the walls of people who looked just like me. It was last winter. I wanted to get away from everything. My job, my city, my phone. I found this small cabin in the mountains of Oregon, listed as the Quiet House. The photos showed a clean, modern interior, a big window overlooking pine trees, and a promise of total solitude. The reviews were minimal, only 3, but all 5 stars. Words like peaceful and perfect escape made it sound exactly like what I needed. The host's name was Evelyn, and she seemed kind. You'll have the whole property to yourself. No neighbors, 4 miles. The key will be under the doormat. That isolation sounded ideal. The drive up there was brutal. Narrow, icy roads, endless forest, no cell signal. When I finally pulled up, the cabin was smaller than the photos made it look. The windows were fogged from the cold, and the woods around it were completely silent. No birds, no wind, just stillness. Inside, it was warm, too warm. The fireplace was already burning. Someone must have lit it recently. That thought should have bothered me more than it did. But the coziness numbed my suspicion. I unpacked, made coffee, and walked around. The decor was strange. Everything was almost identical to the photos online, but not quite. Different curtains, different rug, and those photos on the walls. There were 5 of them, framed family portraits. A man, a woman, and 2 kids, smiling in front of the same cabin I was standing in. Except, the man looked like me. Same face, same beard, same build. At first, I laughed it off. Coincidence. Or maybe one of those AI-styled photos for decor. But the longer I stared, the more the resemblance unsettled me. The woman beside me even had the same jacket my ex-girlfriend used to wear. I turned the photos over. On the back, written in marker, Winter 2022. Our last trip. My chest tightened. It was 2025. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound felt amplified. The crackling fire, the wind brushing against the roof, the subtle creak of the floorboards. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps. They weren't outside. They were upstairs, but there was no upstairs. The cabin was single-story. I grabbed the poker from the fireplace and crept down the hall. The sound was clearer now, slow, dragging steps coming from behind the living room wall, the wall where the largest family photo hung. I touched the frame and felt vibration, a low, rhythmic hum, like a generator behind the wall. I pressed my ear against it and heard breathing. I stumbled back, heart racing, and nearly tripped over a rug. That's when I noticed something else. Faint scratches on the floor leading from the rug to the wall, as if something heavy had been moved repeatedly. I shoved the rug aside and saw it, a small metal latch embedded in the floorboards. A trap. I hesitated for what felt like an eternity. Then I opened it. A wave of cold, still air hit me. I showed my phone flashlight down. There was a narrow staircase, wooden and uneven, descending into complete darkness. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. That curiosity or stupidity pulled me down a few steps. The smell was awful, like mold and rot. And then my light caught something. A row of frames, dozens of Tim leaning against the wall. Each one was of photos, all of them showing different guests, different people, different years. Every photo had the same caption written on the back: "Our last trip." Then I saw the newest one. Me, standing in the doorway of the cabin, smiling. I hadn't taken that picture. I turned around to run, but the trapdoor slammed shut above me. Total darkness. I pounded on the door, shouting for help, but my voice just echoed. Then I heard it, the faint hum again, and the sound of someone walking above me. Slowly, deliberately. Footsteps circling the living room, and then a woman's voice. "Come," almost cheerful. "You should have stayed upstairs." I screamed until my throat hurt. Then, silence. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. I don't remember. Eventually, the door opened again. Blinding daylight poured in. The cabin was empty. My things were gone. My car keys, my phone, everything. I stumbled outside, half frozen, and ran until I reached a ranger station a few miles down the road. I told them everything. They sent officers to investigate, but the property was abandoned. No furniture, no photos. No sign anyone had been there in years. When they showed me the address I'd booked, it didn't exist in their system. The road wasn't even on the official maps, and when I checked my Airbnb history later, the listing was gone. No Evelyn, no quiet house. But sometimes, when I open my Photos app, I see a new folder appear for a few seconds, titled "Our Last Trip." Inside it is a picture of me, standing in the cabin doorway, smiling, and in the background, a woman's pale hand rests gently on my shoulder. If you ever decide to book a quiet Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, maybe double-check the photos first, and if you see yourself in them, leave. If these stories sent a chill down your spine, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment about which stories scared you the most. You might think these tales are just coincidences, but some stays are never meant to end.